Hi, and welcome to a quick tutorial on a new Apache Software Foundation project, Apache Nifi, brought to you by Nifi Rocks, your home for everything Apache Nifi. I'm Chad Zabriskie with Nifi Rocks, and today we're going to talk about two things. The first is navigating the Nifi web UI, just general navigation, the toolbar, and then we'll get into more detail by building a data flow. If you haven't started Nifi yet, there's a quick getting started guide on Nifi Rocks, which will get you up and running, and then you can come back and follow along with us. A link for that will be in the description. So once you have Nifi running, you can open up a browser and go to localhost 8080/Nifi by default, and you'll see the web UI for Nifi. It's pretty basic with the canvas on the bottom, which is where you'll build your data flow, and toolbars up top. There's really three main toolbars and then a search bar. You have your first is your components toolbar, then your actions toolbar, search, and then management. And management is for administration and oversight for your data flow. So we won't talk too much about management. The two we will talk about though is the components and the actions. In the components you have processor, then you have an input port, an output port, a processor group, remote process group, which is when you have clusters, so we won't really get into that today, a funnel, a template, and a label. And that is basically how you're going to build your data flows. And then on the right toolbar is how you manipulate them, starting, stopping, disabling, enabling, changing colors, deleting, etc. So now that that's toolbars, let's go down to the canvas and have a look at what it has. You have your bird's eye view up here on the right, which you can use to move around. And then you have some navigation on the left, moving up and down, zooming in and out, recentering. And then you have your overall canvas. So let's start out by go ahead and creating our first data flow. And we're going to build a data flow that we talk about on our blog under the Getting Started with Apache Nifi post. So first start off by dragging down a processor. You left click, drag it down, and release. It brings up your processor, add processor dialog. You can filter by typing in the top right. The first one we're going to add is actually a get processor. So if you type get, it filters, or you can go over here to the left in the tags and type get. And we're going to add a get HTTP processor. You can either double click and it adds the processor, or you can go down to the bottom if you saw that and click add. To configure a processor, you right click and click configure. There's also some stats about it: upstream connections, downstream connections, usages. You can change the color, you can center it, you can also copy and delete it. So let's go into the configure menu. It brings up another dialog or modal. You can change the name of it. We can call this one, get XML, because we're actually going to go to a website and get an XML feed, and we're actually going to go to xkcd.com webcomic and get their RSS feed. You have scheduling and properties. What we actually want to go into is the properties, and this is where you configure your processor. So we're going to go to, like I said, XKCD's site and get their RSS feed. You can add that, and that's pretty much all that needs to be set there. Is just that for this one. Hit apply. You can see the name changed, and then we're going to add another processor. In this one, we're actually going to add the evaluate Xpath. Click add, and we'll move that around. Quick tip: the easiest way to move around, like the whole screen, is to left click and you can drag around the canvas. Right click just brings up the refresh status. So now we have evaluate Xpath. Let's go ahead and configure that. For this one, we're going to leave it, or change this, the destination, to flow file attribute. What the content does is it adds content to the flow file. We just want to add attributes outside of the flow file itself. Return type, we'll do auto detect, that's fine, and we're going to add 2 new properties, or 3 new properties actually. The first one we'll call link, and these property values are Xpaths. So the first one is going to be channel, item 2, pub date. Let's go ahead and do the next one. The next one will be, or I'm sorry, this one's not pub date, it's actually link. My mistake. I'm going to add another one, call it pub date, and this one will have what I put in last time, channel item 2 pub date. And then did not mean to click that. We'll add one more. It will be title, and it's going to be the same channel item 2 and title. Again, you can rename this, so evaluate or get specific comic, since number 2. And you click apply. Now you can connect these two by clicking that center one, left clicking, and dragging down to where you want it to go to, and you can choose what relationships you want. So the main thing that you have to understand about Nifi is it works off relationships. It has success and failure relationships by default, and you can add different ones for certain processors. So for this, we want this one to proceed here off success, so we want success to be checked. Click add. It connects and says, hey, it's success. We're going to add 3 more processors, or 2 more, sorry. We're going to add 2 put files and show you a copy. Then we can paste. Let's edit the first one. This put file, let's name matched, because we're actually going to change some things based upon whether the previous processor was matched or not. So directory, you can set it to whatever directory you want. Matched, we'll call it matched. You can go settings, and these auto terminate relationships, it terminates the flow after these have been hit. So because this is our last step in the process, we're putting this file here. If it's matched, we can auto terminate both of those. And then this one, we can configure it, call it unmatched. While we're right here, we can click auto terminate, put it to the unmatched directory. Sorry. I'm running in a Vagrant box, so I'm actually going to rename these to be valid directories that I have permissions to. So if you look, the 2 put files have stops on them, and the other 2 actually have exclamation points and a triangle. So these tell you why these processors aren't valid yet. So since the file name is invalid because file name is required. So let's go into there and set file name. Set it to rsx.xml, apply, and you see it changed to a stop. So that means it can be started. And then let's go and look at this one. It says relationship matched is invalid, unmatched, and failure. So let's drag down to here, and we'll do the matched, add, down to here for the unmatched, add, and then what's cool is you can actually have failed files try to reprocess themselves. And the way you do that is you click on there, you click on, let's see if we can get this, does not want to do it. And you pull out and back, and you'll see it turn green, and you can click failure. And so what we did here is we actually said, hey, on failure, try to reprocess. And you can actually configure it even more to do delays on it on failed relationships. So there's a penalty duration, which amount of time when the processor penalizes a flow file. So let's go back. So now you can see that we have some buttons in the action bar that are now available. So you can actually, this is disabling and enabling, so you can make sure it's good to go. You can stop individual processors, or you can click start. So let's go ahead and click the play button. Make sure you're not playing on a specific processor, because if you have a processor selected and you hit play, you will only play that one processor. So if you just don't have one selected and hit play, it'll do all of the processors. So let's give it a second. And as you see, it got one, sucked it in, gave it to the get specific comic number, and then put it down into the match relationship. So that processor ran. We can go ahead and stop, and let's see if we can take a look at the match to see if it's there. As you can see, we have the RSS XML right there, which means it worked. So a couple of things I want to talk about before we finish up. One of them is the idea of processor groups, which isn't really necessary here because we only have 4 processors. But the idea behind it is that you can organize your data flows better when you get to hundreds or even thousands of processors, which Nifi can't support. So you don't have all of them on this one screen, and you're not sitting here, zooming way out, having to have them super tiny. It's just, that'd be crazy. So if we drag processor group down and say you want to process multiple comics, so it's a comic processor group, and we add that, it adds a group of processors, or that can contain processors. And you have breadcrumbs up here that change your current position. So we're in comic process group, Nifi flow. So say in here you want it to have all your comic processors for your evaluate Xpath. So let's add those. Copy, paste, right? We have 2 of them here. So then we can go back up, and as opposed to having this one, let's change our success. Delete that one first. Change this to be, well, first we have to do an input port. So we'll do get XML. Go back up. Connect our get XML to our comic processor group. And we're going to do it on success. To input, add, go into here, and just like before, you can connect it to evaluate Xpath, and then have it route, to this evaluate Xpath on failure, or unmatched. And then I'm not going to configure them since you already saw that, but we can do an output to matched. So say you want to add that back up. You want to go back up, and we're going to do matched and unmatched. So then if you added a new port group here for add, and then say you wanted to connect this one to another processor, you add there. So then here's what we did here a little differently. Let's get rid of that one. Is now it's going to go from get XML, which is going to go out to the website, get the XML, pull it down, and on success it's going to route it to this process group. And in here we can have many other process groups, and we can even processors, and we can even add a new processor group and continue and keep going down. So then you can run your evaluate Xpath here and then throw it back up to the main flow and have it put a file wherever, or really, you know, do many things to it. The list of current processors is fairly large, and you can actually make your own. We'll show you that next time. They already have ones for Hadoop file systems and Kafka, JMS, and SFTP, along with some standard scan content, split text, split XML sort of things. So one last thing I wanted to show you actually was the usage example here too. So if you right click and bring up usage, it brings up actually the description and the properties description for that processor and all the other processors actually, and you can click on expression language, which is what you can use to actually get a little more in depth for your properties. And I think so if we looked at our put file, for example, it gives you a complete breakdown of that, which is really nice. They also have some documentation on their website, developer guide and usage guide. So take a look at that when you get the chance. Thank you for watching. I hope it was valuable, and look for other videos. Go to nifi.rocks to get some more how-tos, and thank you again.